Today's object is the humble garden plastic chair, because I think it's the most ubiquitous plastic object you could ever think of. I mean, I travel all around the world, and everywhere I go, I will see a plastic chair. And you could be in a place where there is nothing else that seems mass manufactured. For example, you could be in South Sudan in a small mud tukul, a mud hut, and you'll find a plastic chair in there. Recently, I just got back from the Syrian border, and I was in a refugee camp, and in the tents, there's a plastic chair. I've been in Afghanistan sitting on plastic chairs. I have sat on a riverboat going down the Nile on a plastic chair. In Angola, I've seen chairs actually converted into wheelchairs. Everywhere I go, without fail, there'll be a plastic chair. Over here, they're almost seen as something that's a bit tacky and a bit rubbish, and you'll sort of see them in somebody's garden, but kind of hidden away, and you'll probably see them in a rented flat where they're half broken. But in other parts of the world, they're actually quite revered as something that's quite important and quite precious. A lot of places you go, maybe they've only got one or two chairs, and it's quite an honour to be the person sat on that chair, and they're often the only bit of sort of constructed furniture or mass constructed furniture that they have. For me, since I was injured and I lost my legs, it's harder for me to get on the floor. So I've also noticed now when I go to countries, especially a lot of Muslim countries where traditionally people sit on the floor, everyone's searching around to find me the plastic chair to sit on. I remember in Angola watching school kids walking for miles to the first ever day of school, because where they were living, they'd been in civil war and they hadn't been able to build schools for over 20 years. So finally they'd built these schools, but there was no furniture. So you'd see these kids walking for miles and miles with their plastic chairs on their heads to get to school. They are just something that in many places are essential. But it was only when I was trying to think of an object, and I was trying to think of plastic objects, and in my mind that was the thing that actually just appears in loads of scenarios. I mean, I can think of one sitting in South Sudan. There was a small town called Lekongole that had been attacked during some tribal wars, and a lot of people had been killed. And Médecins Sans Frontières had a compound there which had been burnt down, and so they'd had to evacuate the area. But I managed to negotiate that they would let me travel there and spend a couple of nights in their burnt down compound. And when I got there, I sort of hadn't really thought about how badly damaged it was. So I suddenly found myself in this very, quite a dangerous area, and the compound literally was burnt to the ground. Apart from the plastic chair, there was a plastic chair left there. So I found myself sat in this compound up all night because I was worried about who might actually arrive there, in a burnt out building, sat on an old plastic chair. So again, it's just something that just always crops up. And I think, as I say, it's the fact you don't necessarily think about it. But when I look back on loads of other stories, I think, well, I was sitting on a plastic chair, or there was a plastic chair there. They're just something that just probably just ties up everything, every place I've ever been. It's a funny thing, because again, it's not something necessarily that I say, I love the fact that there's a plastic chair everywhere. It's funny when you go to countries where everything else is sort of handcrafted and handmade, and the plastic chair has replaced sort of handcrafted wood. But it's something, obviously, that for a lot of people has made life easier, or it's something that's very convenient. So I imagine it will continue to be mass manufactured. I mean, it's probably, if there was a nuclear war, it'd probably be just cockroaches and plastic chairs left.